Coming up on 5 Minute News. Tanya Chutkan denies Trump's request to recuse herself. Justin Trudeau apologizes for Nazi veteran debacle. And North Korea amends constitution on nuclear policy. It's Thursday, September 28. I'm Anthony Davis. U.S. District Judge Tanya Chutkan said yesterday she won't recuse herself from Donald Trump's 2020 election interference case in Washington, rejecting the former president's claims that her past comments raised doubts about whether she can be fair. Chutkan, who was nominated to the bench by President Barack Obama and was randomly assigned to Trump's case, said in her written decision that she sees no reason to step aside. The case, scheduled for trial in March, accuses the authoritarian of illegally scheming to overturn his election loss to Democrat Joe Biden. There's a high bar for recusal, and legal experts have widely considered Trump's request to be a long shot, aimed at undermining the legitimacy of the case publicly that could only sour the relationship between the judge and the defense in court. In seeking Chutkan's recusal, defense lawyers cited statements she'd made in two sentencing hearings of participants in the January 6 riot at the U.S. Capitol, in which they said she had appeared to suggest Trump deserved to be prosecuted and held accountable. They said the comments suggested a bias against him that could taint proceedings. But Chutkan vigorously objected to those characterizations of her comments. It bears noting that the court has never taken the position the defense ascribes to it, that former President Trump should be prosecuted and imprisoned, Chutkan wrote, and the defense does not cite any instance of the court ever uttering those words or anything similar. It's the second time Trump has tried unsuccessfully to get a judge removed from one of the criminal cases against him. Chutkan has scheduled the trial to begin on March 4th next year. The case in Washington's federal court is one of 4 criminal cases confronting the disgraced former president as he seeks to regain the White House. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau on Wednesday formally apologized after the Speaker of the House of Commons praised a Nazi veteran in the chamber while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was present. Trudeau also said the country had reached out to Kiev and Zelensky through diplomatic channels to apologize. Anthony Rota, who publicly acknowledged veteran Yaroslav Hunka in the House last Friday and called him a hero, quit as Speaker of the Chamber on Tuesday and said he bore sole responsibility for what happened. 98-year-old Hunka was a Polish-born Ukrainian who served in one of Adolf Hitler's Waffen SS units during World War II. He later emigrated to Canada. Russia says the incident backs up its assertion that the war in Ukraine aims to denazify the country, a charge Kiev and Western allies say is baseless. On behalf of all of us in this House, I would like to present unreserved apologies for what took place on Friday and to President Zelensky and the Ukrainian delegation for the position they were put in, Trudeau told the House on Wednesday. For all of us who were present to have unknowingly recognized this individual was a terrible mistake and a violation of the memory of those who suffered grievously at the hands of the Nazi regime. North Korea has adopted a constitutional amendment to enshrine its policy on nuclear force, state media reported today, as the country's leader pledged to accelerate production of nuclear weapons to deter what he calls U.S. provocations. The North's rubber stamp parliament, the Supreme People's Assembly, unanimously adopted at a 2-day meeting, which ended yesterday, the revision of the constitution to stipulate that North Korea develops highly nuclear weapons to ensure its right to existence and to deter war, news agency KCNA said. The DPRK's nuclear force-building policy has been made permanent as the basic law of the state, which no one is allowed to flout with anything, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said, addressing the parliament. he called for exponentially boosting the production of nuclear weapons and diversifying the nuclear strike means and deploying them in different services, saying the US has gone to extremes in its military provocations with drills and the deployment of strategic assets in the region. Kim returned home last week from a rare trip to Russia, during which he and Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed to boost military and economic cooperation. US and South Korean officials have expressed concern that Pyongyang could be seeking technological help for its nuclear and missile programs, while Moscow tries to acquire ammunition from the north to supplement its dwindling stocks for the war in Ukraine. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.